Hi there. For many years, people who were involved in traditional martial arts speculated as to which system was superior, and it was never really resolved until the rise of mixed martial arts. And really, it answered most of those questions. And the book we're reviewing today, Total MMA, charts that rise, starting in Brazil uh, with the Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, the Gracie family, obviously the fight between Helio Gracie and Kimura, the great Japanese champion, which obviously was won by Kimura, but the Gracies claimed a lot of kudos from it. And then also the Vale Tudo challenges in Brazil between different martial arts and different systems, which could often be very, very violent and very, very prolonged. It's all charted in the book, and the progression or the arrival of BJJ in the United States with Horian Gracie, and then how that led to the UFC. Now, it's a really well-known story, but the book covers it in interesting detail. A previous book I reviewed, No Holds Barred, covers much of the same ground, but both books are equally interesting. So that was the start of the UFC. We were all fascinated by it. We covered it in Fighting Arts magazine, and the rest is history. The book also covers the Japanese side of the story. There were a lot of, they were equally fascinated by this idea of which was the superior martial art, and there was a lot of different promotions that fostered the matches. In the earlier days, they were almost all worked. They were almost all agreed result matches, where one person would take a dive, or it was choreographed in some way. And a friend of mine brought round a tape one day of some promotion. I can't remember what it was called. It had Bushi in the title somehow. He said, "Oh, this is great, watch it." And I watched it for about a minute, and I said, it's worked. You know, I've seen enough real fights in my life to know when something isn't real. However, there were some fantastic real events, and the one that rose to the top was Pride, and it had its own set of competitors from all over the world, lots of Brazilians and lots of Americans, and the rules were more violent than the American competitions. For example, they allowed soccer kicks to a downed opponent and things like this, and the level of action and the level of violence was there. Caveat: there were some worked fights in Pride. Baz Rutten gave the game away when he was commentating, and as an aside, he said the result, what the winning technique and what round, and it caused a bit of consternation. Being Japan, and with the interests, commercial interests in Japan, it's not all that surprising. What is surprising is that so much of or the mainstream mixed martial arts is completely straight. Pride gave us some really great competitors, some of the great Brazilians who later went over to the UFC. UFC took over Pride, bought it. Another terrific Japanese competition was K1. and in some ways it could be called the ultimate striking championship because it didn't allow grappling, but it took striking to a very high level, the kicks, the knee strikes, the punches and so on. And I enjoyed K1, and I still watch some of the old K1 fights, and they're some of the greatest there were. It gave rise to people like Andy Hook, who tragically died at a very early age, Ray Sefo, Mark Hunt, both from Australia, New Zealand, who had an epic fight themselves, amongst themselves, which is brilliant. Mark Hunt, of course, went on into the UFC, competed at the highest levels in the heavyweights. There was Mike Bernardo from South Africa, who I always enjoyed watching fight. And then there was the giant American ex-footballer Bob Sapp, and the book goes into a lot of details on his career. In Japan, he was a superstar, almost a superhero, and he had a fight with Crow Cop. Terrible mismatch as regards size, because K1 didn't have weight divisions, and Crow Cop beat him. A punch to the orbital area put him down, and he was whimpering in pain. And Crow Cop then took off on a meteoric rise, and he also entered the UFC, and he was always a tremendously exciting fighter. So the book covers a lot of the stars of the UFC, the epic clashes. Who can forget Chuck Liddell and Tito Ortiz's rivalry throughout the years. Baz Rutten, who had made his name in Japan, he became UFC champion, always a very exciting fighter. And the book, and also GSP, of course, amazing, and a tremendous human being as well. The book also covers the styles and how the systems became dominant and then not so much. Starting with BJJ, then the era of the wrestlers came in, and then the strikers, up till the present day, when it's now become a truly integrated system as of itself, where people train specifically for mixed martial arts, and the technical development is quite meteoric. It's you really do have to be able to have your conditioning, the dedicated conditioning and nutrition programs to supplement it, all the different types of strength training you need to do, then all the different facets of the striking, the grappling, the wrestling, the submissions and so on, that have to be integrated into your own personal system, and then different techniques evolve, and they have to be taken into account at all times. The book is written very, very well. I thoroughly enjoyed it. I found it a very enjoyable read. It was a while ago when I read it, and I immediately emailed quite a few of my friends and put them onto it, because it's a really, really good book. Lots of quotes, lots of interviews, lots of insights into it. And anybody who's a fan, not only of mixed martial arts and the UFC, but of martial arts in general, will find this book a really, really absorbing read.